All right, man. Let's have some fun today.
Let's have some fun. It's May 9th, the year 2023. Welcome aboard, everybody. You're listening to the Crushing Iron podcast, episode 683.
Yeah, it is.
That is.
Without fun, what do you got, man?
What you got? You got nothing. You got too much serious stuff. Yeah, it's listen, I don't know what happened to spring, but I would welcome it back with open arms. It was brutally hot here over the weekend, as I've read through Training Peaks comments the last 2 days. Apparently, I'm not alone. A lot of the country's been hit with some very, very unseasonably warm temps. Humidity dew point, it's back. And you know what else that means? Your fitness, gone. All that hard work from the off season, gone. Fitness, gone. Heart rate, high. Pace, slow. You're done. I'm just kidding. But remind yourself, it takes a while to get heat acclimated, and the more you can do it, the more you can be out in it, the faster it is to acclimate. So before we do our intro and then the meat of the podcast, just a friendly reminder, don't avoid it, embrace it. The sooner you embrace the season's changing and just accept that your pace is going to be what it's going to be for a little bit, the sooner it'll be back to where it was 3 weeks ago. So get out there, have some fun with it. But yeah, it's a little bit warmer. It was also a warm and hot racing weekend. You had PTO Ibiza that went on very, very, very early on Saturday. You had St. George 70.3, a lot of races. May is without question the busiest racing month, I think. But maybe September is up there, but you had PTO Ibiza, you had St. George 70.3, you got another pro race this weekend, which is Gulf Coast 70.3, which is crazy. That's a men's pro race now. You got an ITU race, Yokohama is this weekend. You got Ironman Tulsa 70.3, Chattanooga in May. I mean, you got I think there's another one into this month. I want to say Victoria 70.3 is in this. It's just slammed. May is jam packed. It is busy. So if you're out there racing, good luck to you. Have a good month and embrace things. Before we move on to the intro, also embrace our gear sale. I think tonight, Tuesday, is the last night. Tuesday at midnight, we're doing a huge gear sale. Go to our website, c26triathlon.com. Click on the online store. Purchase some gear, 25% off all things with the discount code C26Gear. Go in there, get yourself some stuff, whether it's in season or out of season. Stock up, pile up, buy some stuff for yourself, for your friends. It's also, so we don't do sponsors and ads, it is the best way to support the podcast and support Mike and I in our endeavors to keep this going at least till 1,000. But, the more gear that's purchased, maybe we just creep it up a little bit over 1,000. So that's a lot. We've had a lot of people go in there, and I know specifically from what I at least see on the interwebs, you're writing some pretty solid handwritten notes.
Are you seeing some of that out there?
I saw the obviously the Penn State lady who was not very happy with your OHIO comment. But to be fair, I don't even know the last time Penn State won anything of relevance. So I mean,
she lives in Ohio, so I just took a shot.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Penn State. I mean, I think women's volleyball is where you guys kind of own it, or at least have before. Outside of that, you got James Franklin, which he's been on my shit list since he was at Vandy. So yeah, I mean. Underperform. That's Penn State.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's one of my MOs is to kind of write weird stuff sometimes, depending on my mood. Sometimes it's just a simple thank you, but other times I like to mix it up. And I've gotten a lot of what the hell were you talking about on this? I think where is it? Someone from the Woodlands ordered gear, and I said, and here's your gear for sending us the new 4-star quarterback to Wisconsin. And she had no idea.
They don't even know that kind of stuff.
I know, but that's the research part.
Enough. Yeah, I like it. I like that kind of stuff. It makes it personalized and makes it important. It's a nice, like you said, personable touch from the man, the Mike Tarrolly. So again, go ahead and do that. That ends tonight. So if you've been waiting, don't wait, because you're going to wait any longer. It's going to be out of stock, or it's going to be back to full price. So go ahead and do that. Take advantage of our gear sale. Again, that's 25% off all gear with the discount code C26Gear. Without further combo, if it's your first time tuning in today, welcome. We appreciate you giving us your time. We know you have quite a lot of options in the triathlon podcast universe and just podcasts in general. Times are very valuable, so we appreciate you tuning in today. We cover it all. We do swim, bike, and run specific podcasts. We do race recaps and also a lot of race previews. But for the most part, Mike and I, as coaches, athletes, best friends, we just sit back, relax, have an open, honest discussion about what we're going through in life, not just as human beings, but also as coaches and athletes ourselves. We also talk frequently about what our own athletes are going through. Mike and I work with a wide range of athletes all across the globe, from beginner-level triathletes looking at the very first 5K or sprint triathlon, all the way up through elite amateurs trying to get back to world championships, and everyone in between from all over the globe. And we use the feedback loop we have with them and training peaks, emails, text messages, and the like to drive the discussion of the day. We also utilize our Facebook group. You can search that, Crushing Iron Group. Answer one simple question, we'll let you right in. Awesome people, fantastic community, very solid resource in a sport that's oftentimes very confusing and way overcomplicated and full of a lot of, frankly, bad information. It's a great place to get solid info, great feedback, and loads of experience there. So don't be a lurker, participate, get some good, honest feedback, and to kind of help yourself get out of your own way, get out of your own weeds, and make progress. And we'll go in there about once a month, do a little bit of a Q&A. But that is it. We don't do sponsors, as mentioned before. We don't do ads, like I said, but we do have an agenda, and it's an important one, and that's to do our best to keep you happy and healthy in your endurance sports journey.
Yeah, and as you said, it is hot. It's getting hot, and
it is toasty.
That's I just wanted to say that we do have a lot of cool water bottles, so you need to hydrate out there. We got pink, black, and a few white ones left.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Go get them.
Go get them while they're hot. Okay.
Yeah.
So I told you.
You perked me. You turned me perky before the cast today. You said you were going to, I guess that was like when your old school marketing teases, where before the break, we do the intro, you said you had a question about swimming that might perk me up. And as soon as I heard the word swim, I got perky.
Well, yeah, I do have a question. It's not really, I don't know if it's going to be what you think, but I feel like it could. I have an agenda behind this a little bit.
Well, see, yeah, everybody's got a fucking agenda these days.
I mean, hopefully it resonates with other people is what I'm saying. So my question is simple. It's simple, man. You grew up swimming.
I did.
You're a solid swimmer.
I am.
What do you think about when you're swimming? Like I said, I have a point here.
What do I think about when I'm swimming?
Yeah.
I would say that's an excellent question. It's an interesting question.
It spawns out into different things.
Yeah, no, listen, it is a good point. And it actually is a good question. Like, I think most people would think, I think about my grocery list and my to-do list and what am I going to do here? And the next thing I know, like, we always use the analogy that swimming is a lot like reading a book. If you're not dialed in and focused and present, then you blow through 4 pages and you have no idea what you read, and you got to go back, right? Or it's like, you get distracted. You're watching a really good show on Netflix, and you do what most people do, which is you have Netflix on, but you're just playing on your phone the whole time. And then you're like, I missed what happened. You got to rewind again. Just stay present, stay focused. In the pool, when we have athletes that have like really, really big breakthrough moments, it's because they are thinking through things, how to do things better. Myself specifically. So I usually have 2 thought processes in the pool. One, my warm up is I just kind of go thoughtless. I either go thoughtless or I feel like, let me see how my stroke is today. Because, we say this a lot, that for me as an athlete, but also as a coach, I find that swimming is the easiest way for me to monitor overall body fatigue, because it takes a lot of energy to swim. It's whole body. That's kind of really where total body fatigue shows up. So warm up, I kind of get like a decent feel for where I am today. Am I feeling sluggish? And I know within like the first 200 to 300 if I'm going to have a good swim or not. I mean, there's swimming slow or I'm swimming solid. That's it. So I always kind of make a decision at that point. If I'm swimming slow, and I know this like will 100% annoy most type A athletes there, but I don't make up my set until I'm done with my warm up. And obviously, like as a coach and as a lifelong swimmer, I've got like a Rolodex of swim sets in my head. But I think about the warm up. How do I feel, and what am I capable of executing given the day? So if I warm up, super sluggish, then what I'm not going to do is give myself 25, 50, or 100 repeats that are going to be really, really, really hard, because I'm not going to do very well. I'm going to be a little bit slow. I'm going to increase fatigue. I'm going to make things worse on myself for the next session, which is something we talk a lot about, bridging the gap, connecting the links in a chain, complementing workouts, not digging a hole. So what I would do in that scenario is like, all right, well, I would definitely probably just make it like a pull session. Like I work on strength, maybe distance per stroke, not as in how few strokes I can use to make it in the pool, but how long and strong my strokes can be. So I'm working on, total upper body muscular endurance while also letting my legs take a rest. So I'm getting in a great workout, and it's specific to the day, but it's based on my warm-up. Now, if I had a great warm-up and I'm feeling salty, feeling like I can go out there and kind of really give it, then I'll do 25s, 50s, 100s. Now, when I get to the main set of anything, I do think every single time I'm swimming. So if I'm doing a 25, a 50, a 100, a 200, I'll probably stop there. Is if I'm doing repeats like that, I think not every single second, but I'm always thinking about something specifically. Like I know as a swimmer and as a person who's seen myself swim, and I think I talked about this last year, maybe around this time, about like for me, head position is a big difference maker for my pace. And so I will monitor pace position. I'll monitor head high, head low, kind of head steady, and see kind of find my happy place. Like in terms of, I'll clock myself, I'll do a say it's a 50. I'll do a 50 where I keep my head a little bit higher, effort the same, check my time, right? Maybe it's 40 seconds. Next one, I'll keep my head low, look at the bottom of the pool, which is, not something you should do, and then clock my time. Maybe it's 41 seconds because I'm creating more drag. My head's too low. It's kind of like submarine effect. And then I'll do it kind of like not head high, but head looking forward. Like for me, the great head position is kind of like being on a bike in arrow position. You don't want to look straight up, right? Where you got a big, your huge angle in your neck, like periscope looking, 900 feet down the road. You don't want it staring straight down on your bike computer. You just want to look up the road. And that's kind of what I think about when I swim, is I want to look up the lane, not all the way to the end to the tee, right? But just up the lane. And that position for me is always fastest. And so that might be 38, whatever. So that's what I'll start off with. Once I feel like I have that in, then I'll kind of understand, am I cutting my stroke short? Am I entering wide? Am I finishing to the left, to the right? I'm always trying to figure out something, even if I'm going fast, right? Am I going faster today, breathing from the right or breathing from the left? And if I'm going fast, because sometimes I will, like I'll do, even though I'm a right side breather, because I'm not a huge fan of breathing every 3, because in open water, like every stroke is the way you should go. So I'll do, no matter when I swim, I pick a side to look at. So instead of the lifeguard's on one side, I always face the lifeguard when I swim. So that means first 25 breathe to the right, and then the next 25 breathing to the left. So I'm still breathing every stroke. I'm just alternating. And so sometimes I'll feel out, like if I do a 50, let's just call it all out for argument's sake, is I'll breathe just to the right and I'll clock myself. All right, well, that was, again, 40 seconds. And I'll go left and maybe I do 38. And then I'll kind of ask myself during the interval or during the rest interval, why was I faster breathing left the same effort? Is it because I need extra rotation, right? Which I talk about a lot in our swim camps and triathlon camps, about a lot of athletes find themselves swimming better or faster, at least short term, right? 25s, 50s, 100s, because they don't have the musculature and muscular endurance to hold it for a long period of time. But a lot of people and a lot of athletes, I think, even try this with you, who have a really strong natural side, the side that's inhibited either by flexibility or range of motion. Breathing to that side allows you to kind of open up for it and then take a bigger, stronger stroke. The other side, you have full range, so it doesn't need kind of the rotation, not of the hips, but of the upper body to take a breath. That's why a lot of people are stronger. You're just getting more range of motion. Again, not from the hips, but from range of motion. So I'll play with that and then kind of try to answer my own questions as I go. So yeah, I try not to think of a grocery list or training peaks, or the next race. I will think of like racing once it gets closer to a race. Like when I'm swimming, I'll visualize things and how to swim, how to sight buoys, how to stay square, how to feel fast. But I'm always trying to figure out something I had an athlete yesterday who texted me and said, "Hey, I had a huge aha moment. I was able to remove the pause in my stroke just by breathing to a different side," which again is all swimming is a domino effect. One thing affects one thing affects one thing. And so if you're always thinking, right, and you know what to think about, and you've had a good instructor, you've got a coach that tells you what to focus on, like, you should always be thinking of something. And that's something that we do with our workouts is I'll tell, all right, today, I don't do drills. I just do specific things to focus on, right? Because you want to heighten awareness in the water, right? Drills are good for drills. Swimming is good for swimming. And so we'll just do, certain things where we want to highlight a certain aspect, whether it's entry, whether it's early vertical forearm, whether it's your finish, whether it's, staying wide, whatever it is, to allow you to feel different things while you're actually swimming, right? I've never heard of anybody who's like, yeah, I was, swimming with one arm out in front, one arm by my side with my snorkel, my fins on, and man, I had a huge aha moment because it felt just like swimming in open water. No, never happens. You can't have that aha moment when you're not actually swimming. And so we do some things like that, but that actually allows athletes to kind of stay engaged, know what to focus on, not just, hey, go swim 3,000 today, because then you'll think about anything, you see about how quick you can get out. So in short, yeah, I think about quite a few things because the goal again is to get faster, right? And swimming is it giveth and taketh away, because most athletes allow it to take it away because they don't focus when they're there because they hate it. But swimming is of the three sports is the one with the most amount of, in my opinion, free effortless speed, because it's so technical. You can change one aspect, affects one thing in the pool, and you're 4 to 5 seconds faster per 100 with less effort. That's minutes. That's a bigger improvement over a 70.3 and easily a full than a wetsuit in an extra minute in transition. And you're fresher, right? So yeah, it's always important to think in the pool. And if you're not, then that's also probably why you're getting slower or you stayed the same.
Okay, well, so yeah, you do think about things. I was kind of hoping you say not much. But in all seriousness, I think it's important because you grew up swimming, so it's been in your body forever. So basically how I imagine you doing all that stuff is sort of like, the guy on stage who can spin plates and juggle and play the piano with his foot and all that other, like you're real coordinated on that effort because it's natural. You can probably, keep your form subconsciously or whatever and still think about that stuff. But there's a degree, like I would imagine, this is just me thinking about you doing this, is that you're kind of like in the moment, you're breathing, you're strong, you're doing everything right, but you're kind of like noodling around, tweaking things, not obsessing about it is what I'm saying. And like, I think that matters how much experience you have and how comfortable you are in the water. In other words, like all that stuff you were saying, if somebody's just struggling to not swim very fast, period, to be thinking about all that shit, I think can be a little counterproductive, because you got to get, certain basics down. Like I had a guy one of my athletes sent me a video, and the first thing that popped was that his arms were crossing too far in front of him. But I was like, damn, but that looks like a pretty good stroke. And then we were talking, and he's in the 120, 100 range. And I was like, well, I like that. And we both kind of agreed at it, but like my thought process on this was, and I'll be interested to hear your opinion actually, is that I'm like, don't really start changing a lot. You can start, kind of reaching out a little bit maybe, or, because I liked how that, when you used to always tell me how to swim back in the day, it was always the thing that always stuck to me was like swimming on a rivet. And that always sticks because I feel like a lot of people get too boxy and too rigid with their stroke. And this guy had a really nice long reach and everything was really kind of looking good. And I think we can improve, like you said, a little bit here and there, but I don't like to make super drastic changes in that situation because, first of all, I don't know if our muscular system is ready for a lot of massive differences in the. That's how I think, because I don't know if it's because I'm getting older or something, but if I try to do drastic maneuvers, like sometimes it can really set me back. Like my body's like, wait a minute, what's going on here? So I just I'm very curious about these types of things. For me, like, because I'm not that. Like for me, I don't expect to be like super fast, but I just like to be strong, and I like to be ready to handle what's in front of me at a reasonable rate. So a lot of times my thing is like long strokes, and I always think from my hips. I'm always just trying to reach from my core and from my hip, and really kind of get that good flexible reach and that strong pull and that kind of thing. So, but yeah, like I don't know, it's just maybe I just haven't, because I think what you're saying, like when I was swimming a crap ton last year and doing 4,000 and 5,000 kind of routinely, then you start getting in that mode where you're like, all right, I'm under control here. I have control of what I'm doing. Now I can kind of branch out and work on little things like you're saying, like that head position. And like for me, I know I'm swimming my best when I'm not thinking about breathing, and it just all sort of rolls in and it's kind of connected. And I can always get a better feel for that when I have paddles on. Does that make sense? Or does that seem right to you? Because I feel
that's the point of the paddles, right? And like that's, like paddles and fist drill and sculling, like they're all things about feeling the water. And a lot of triathletes don't feel the water, but like as you were talking there, like swimming and technique, right? And one of the reasons why obsessing about one thing is so bad is that if you obsess about one thing, then you don't know, right, what, like I call it domino effect. You don't know what else it's affecting when you do it, right? You might be totally obsessing about, not crossing over so you're staying wide. Well, is that changing your ability to get your early vertical forearm, right? Or is it making you cross underneath your body? Or is it making you finish earlier, right? And does it feel slower, feel faster? Like you obsessing about anything is bad.
Yeah.
Right. But you tend to focus on the what's that quote? Like, can't see the forest, the trees.
Right.
So 100% solely focused on that. Like, and this is something I tell athletes too, because changing swim form and technique is it's all connected. It's all cause and effect, which is very, 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 very similar to fitting yourself on a bike. You can't just do one thing and expect it to not change other things. And I get on athletes about this all the time. Like, yeah, I'm just playing with my setup, so I lower my seat a little bit. I'm like, you can't just lower your seat. You can't just raise your seat, because you didn't just change the seat height. You now changed the angle of your hips, which also could have changed the angle of your forearms and your air position. Like everything is connected. Like you move your saddle up and down, you need to also move your saddle fore and aft. And if you did that, then are you going to be too far forward or too far back in your air bars? Like everything is connected. Every position change you make has an impact. So you can't just do one. You can maybe get lucky one time, but it always affects something else. And swimming is the same way. So like if and swimming again is like, Gary Hall Sr., who's like one of the godfathers of swimming, has a line. I think he says that the harder you try to swim, the slower you go.
Yeah.
And that 100% fact. And that's why we like rarely ever go all out. And if we do, it's like with max rest, you can do it right again. It's almost always like 25s, 50s. But for most athletes, the harder they try, the slower they go, because then they go from not thinking to just moving their arms. Most athletes are better served by going 90% with good form, perfect form that they can hold, and then building their way up, right, from a muscular endurance standpoint to hold form for a long period of time. But yes, obsessing about a specific thing is never a good thing, because you also lose sight of, and that's why I'm so anti singular drills, right? The catch-up drill, the snorkel, and then the hands by your side and kicking in the pool, and then the laying on your side and then laying on your back. I'm like, I can't wrap my brain around how that is applicable to you getting an extra feel of what it's going to be like once you're tossed in the water with 3,000 people in a rolling ocean. Nothing. It's like telling, Hayden in the bathtub, he's playing with his rubber ducky, rolling on his back, blowing bubbles. Hey man, you're ready for open water. Let's rock. No, it's none of it's the same. You have to be able to have total awareness, and total awareness means being aware, right? Not just focusing on one aspect, right? They talk, and it's the cause and effect. But again, most people don't understand what doing one thing in the water with their stroke can have an effect on another. Like, that's why I'm so anti these high elbows out of the water, is because for most people it causes them to enter the water too early and then exit the water too quickly, and it also makes it a lot harder to stay square, right? Because in my opinion, like, swimming should be very, very simple. Like, you swim in a rectangle, swim in a box. You reach for your corners, you exit your corners. That's it. Early vertical forearm. Keep it simple. But every time you enter towards the middle of the box, you're crossing over your midline. Well, then now to cross over midline, now you get to move east and west. Well, east and west is counterproductive. Now you're going slower. But then other things, right, from a positive standpoint, like this athlete yesterday, I get this question all the time. How can you correct someone's swim form when you're not seeing them on deck? Why? Well, if you haven't gotten faster at your everyday master swim program with a coach on deck with 50 athletes, then it's the same thing, right? But when you give athletes opportunities and structure and cues to get better and to focus on, they get faster, 100%. And that's what most people lack, is like very structured, cue driven, again, not useless drills, but cues to recognize what's going on in the stroke, because feel is the most important thing for an athlete. Feeling the water. Most athletes don't even know what that is. You say, what is feel? Then you don't have it, because you should be able to feel it on your forearms, right? And then allowing yourself to, because once you can start to feel, right, your hands and your arms and your forearms as a paddle, like in the water, then you can start to maneuver and change things. But when you remove a pause, like when you start to move through your stroke faster, you're not catching as much water. That changes the whole rhythm of your stroke. Then you might be off rhythm. And again, I honestly think that one of the reasons that a lot of athletes struggle with sighting is because they're obsessing on something while they swim, which isn't swimming straight. And I think that is something that, like, again, when you're trying to keep things like really simple, that's something to cue off of. Like, we had an athlete who was like very, very, very anxious about swimming in open water and the ocean, had an amazing swim. He was at the long distance world championships in Ibiza and just nailed his swim. And he was like, I remember thinking about how to stay calm and like keep the buoy in between my body, and like these like real world applications for swimming that people just don't think about. But that's the thing, is like, you have to think about it. And a lot of people don't like to do it in the pool because they don't think there's a way to think themselves faster. But that's false. Swimming is the one of the three where you can think yourself to be faster, right? Think about where your hand enters. Think about the how it creates getting early vertical form. Then what do you do with your hands? You push straight back. Do you come out of the water early? What does that feel like? Because what you should also do, in my opinion, it's once you've done these like focused drills, like in a preset, well, the main set is you remove that and have them swim. And then having done the preset where you're focusing on, right entry, early vertical forearm, finishing far back, longer and starting, whatever the focus is, and now you try to do it when you swim, period. Because you were swimming before and now you're swimming again. Now it's just the heightened awareness mentally of what it should feel like physically. And that's how you should be able to keep it. And then that's how like, that's why paddles are a great thing. Fist drill is a great thing, because it removes those giant sensory mechanisms, which are your fingers and your hands, and only force you to feel with your forearms, right? Or, a buoy or using a band, like, forces you to realize how lazy you are with your legs and your core. Like, one of the things I think athletes should do more oftentimes than they probably actually do it is to try to swim wrong. Right? So swim right, know what it feels like to swim right, and then get lazy with it and see how much harder it is to swim wrong to go slower than it is to swim right with less effort and go faster. Because it's 100% about feel. And when we had the endless pool back at the hub in Chattanooga, that was one of the things that I really tried to hammer home with people when they came in, is that once you have a great feel for the water, I could probably hop in the endless pool and I could swim, with the same cadence, right? Or in stroke cadence, a 180, or excuse me, like a 155 down to like a 115. It's because everything under the water is a choice of just how much water to grab. But I can only do that because I've got a feel for the water. And my going slower means cutting my stroke shorter or entering the water earlier, doing less work because I know what it feels like to do less work. Less work gets slower times. More work gets faster times. And that all happens below the surface. And that was one of the things we talked about at our camp we just had in Texas, and we'll go through in June, is like when we do these pool sessions, it's like it's so important to measure and gauge RPE of what it feels like to go fast and easy versus what it feels like to go hard and slow. And that is the predicament that most athletes find themselves in because they don't know what to think about. They don't know how it connects, right? Each other, and affects the other one and why. And it's, again, very much like, bike fitting or, even, I guess what people say about chiropractors is, we have an issue on one side of the body. So you really want to fix an issue on this side of the body because it's an imbalance, right? It's like everything is connected, and understanding that in a simplistic way is how you have these aha moments, and then continuously focusing on the stroke as a whole, right? Broken down into parts. And that's what we do with these is we always start at the front with an athlete, right? And start from the front of the stroke to the back of the stroke. And let's just, like you said, your athlete you saw a video of, they already swim pretty fast, they're crossing over a little bit, they're already in the 120s. Well, if you saw, like two things, it's like, one was in the back, one was in the front. You always start in the front. Always start in the front of the stroke. Once their front is good, their middle is good, then you work on the back because the back's kind of gravy. You don't start at the back. You start at the front, the stuff that matters the most. But again, a lot of athletes struggle with that because they aren't informed as well. They don't have workouts that have the specific cues. It's just swim 100 hard, right? There's no preset or warm up or focus for that. And it's not always like that, right? Depending on what phase you're in, depending on what kind of swimmer you are. But you should always have like what I would call like engagement phase of your swim session, whether it's coach led, right? With a preset, with something you're specifically working on for the day, written out specifically of what to kind of notice. Cause that's, again, one thing that you should challenge your athletes with is like, how do you feel with this? How does that feel with that? What did you notice? Because they're the ones that notice it and can fix it in their own terminology and in their own way. And it's kind of a way of bridging that kind of language barrier. That's not really a language. It's just, my analogy or my way of describing something versus yours. And being able to do it on the fly without a coach on deck, without someone, with a motorbike, biking by your bicycle or, pacing you on the run, like you're going to make these decisions on your own. And you can only do that, right, if you feel it. For example, like you're swimming on a pool deck and somebody, because this is totally true. And that's how it happens. This is why, a coach on a deck has to be very, very like anal about when you stop somebody is, let's say, Mike, you're doing a 50. You're like, hey, did you notice this? You'd be like, no, I had no idea what I didn't notice it at all. So how can I correct something you're not paying attention to? Because you didn't know what you were doing wrong or how it felt. So you won't know how it won't feel. And that's just something that you have to be. It's why when I get on deck, like at the pool, like I yell so much, I try to stop people like immediately. What was that? What did you just do? How did it feel? Because it has to be real time. So you have to really work with the athletes and push them to think about themselves and how they're swimming to recognize what feels like what. But again, like that's why so many athletes struggle with swimming, is that they just go through the motion. So they can't tell you how the motion feels or what they get out of it. They just move their arms. And that's why they continue to put in a lot of effort. They get frustrated, and their times either stay the same, or they may in fact even get slower.
You said a lot of things there, obviously, that are really good. And I want to go back to, you were talking about feel for the water. And obviously, I'm sure you see this too, but I see it quite often. There's a lot of times, man, my warm up was the fastest that I had, or whatever. And I think, like for me, I'm always trying to take thought out of it, but I know we have to think about things, and when you talk about feel, that kind of, I played college baseball, and one of the hardest things is hitting a baseball, right? So when you get in a box, you got to be relaxed and you got to have a feel. I mean, it's like you have a split second to make a decision. You can't think that through. So how do you get to the point where you just, you're feeling the whole situation, and it's just a timing element? So when you were talking about starting at the front, for example, like I just want to, like, if somebody's struggling with swimming and you say start at the front, what is something, very simple? Because I've thought about that too. Like we talk about getting the catch and pull through the middle and then finish the stroke with the back. And I've told people before, I was like, just don't think about the back right now, because you're not getting anywhere. In the 95 to 98% of the stroke is up in the front and through the middle. So what kind of, like without getting too deep, is there something around feel that we can have somebody think about when they're in the water and just get to that point?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, some of the things that I know I do for feel, like before I warm up for a race, I don't swim a lot, but I scull a lot, which I know is most athletes, like the bane of their existence is when I tell them to scull. Mm-hmm. But the sculling is to feel what it's like with your hands and your forearm, what the water feels like. Because if you can feel that pressure, you know how long you keep it. Once the pressure disappears from your forearm, you're no longer pushing water back at the highest velocity you can. So if you're not feeling it on your forearm, you're not doing much work. So the longer you feel it, the faster you go. The less you feel it, the less you go. I mean, it's very simple, kind of like easy ratio to understand. We've got some great videos in the online hub that are useful for that in terms of like staying square. But yeah, most people, it's about, honestly, like for a lot of athletes, and back when I used to teach tennis and even like watching tennis now, when I've worked with a pro now, it's like I know when a shot's going to go in, but without even looking at the ball, because I can tell by the stroke.
Yeah.
If it's going to be a good ball, right? Same thing with the swing. I can tell almost every time with an athlete when I've worked with them one-on-one with how their hand position is and how the angle of their hand or is it bent or their wrist is when they hit the water, if it's going to be a good stroke or not. Just by that. Just by the angle of their wrist. It is a tell, an athlete's tell. If your thumb is all the way down and your palm is facing east or west, no. If your wrist hits the water first, no. Like there's a lot of cues you can take from owning your wrist position and that was like one of the things when we was kind of joking with some of the athletes at the Texas Tri Camp we did, that's now going to be like a run and swim camp next year, is when I went through, and again, like, and I tell people this very, 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 very specifically, is when I do my swim stroke, I tell them, you don't have to swim like me. You don't have to, period. Everyone's swim stroke is a little bit different, just like everyone's run form is a little bit different. It's kind of like a fingerprint, right? So, but one of the biggest things that they say, and one of the advantages I know that I do have, is that they say you really get into the water and it's like you're digging. And I get it. My wrist is bent, right? So my fingertips get into the water, and then so it allows me to immediately get into my stroke, immediately get into my catch phase, versus what most athletes do, which is, take a long and easy glide stroke. Keep it out in front. All right, folks, let's try the catch. All righty. Elbows in place. It's lowering because you don't know how to catch because you're not strong enough. And now let's bring the elbow out. Repeat. We are going to enter the water again. We are going to move. You're going to sight, and you're going to realize you haven't fucking gone anywhere. You're dead still where you went before because you moved so slow. Like it doesn't work. On open water, the total immersion way doesn't work. That's not how. That's like teach people to be comfortable in the water, doesn't teach you how to swim fast with comfort. And you have to dig and you have to get into your stroke. Most people wait so long and have no lat engagement at all, period, to hold that stroke and to hold the high elbow. It just goes straight down to the bottom. I mean, and there is no catch. There is 100% no catch. It is no feel and no catch. They're moving their arms. in the if you find yourself moving, your stroke is like the hand of a clock. It goes in, it goes around, it goes back up. There is no catch, there is no pushback. Then that is why you're as slow as you are. That's just a fact. Hate to break it to you, but that's why. Like, you have to have some sort of catch, even if it's a straight arm recovery, or you're doing like old school Janet Evans, who was like the windmill. You got to have some kind of a catch to push back, or you're going to go nowhere. And that's also part of the reason you probably have really poor body positioning, is to do that. And that's like one of the things that we're going to start doing at our camps with that have swimming, like at Tri Camp in June. We're going to have 2 pool session days and upper water day, but we're going to use the Zen 8 trainer on that. And then again at the swim camp next year, to have athletes kind of really feel what it's like to have total body control, right? Do strokes correctly. And then more importantly, like what it feels like for things to feel a certain way when you do the stroke, because proprioception and where your body is in space is really hard in the water, but being able to feel engagement, right? You know that cue. I know when my calf burns. I know when my quad burns. I know when my hamstring burns. Like, you know those cues, right? If you're not pulling up on your pedal stroke, you can have sometimes it's a click, or if you have a dead spot, you can tell when you're engaged in your calves. You can tell when you're maybe not engaging your glutes when you run. Well, swimming, like, if you're not engaging your lats, then you know that feeling. So like using those trainers on deck, and how to help athletes not in the water with them, or telling them to do it, or they're like, yeah, I think I felt it. Well, you're not in their mind, right? But if you can force them to do it on deck, this is what it feels like. Then again, if they're thinking in the water, then I can do things, change up my stroke, even over the course of a 25, maybe 2-3 times. I can change my stroke till I get that feel. Okay, I got that feel. That's what it feels like. What did I just do? Okay, I did that. Let me do it again. Oh, okay, I did it again. I can still feel my lats engaged. Now I'm pushing one. Okay, now, oh my gosh, it's harder. Yes, it is harder. That means I need more rest. All right, I'll do it for 25, then do it at 50, work my way up, but I'm faster. It's easier. The goal is to keep doing it, right? You don't choose a lazier, slower way because it feels better. You don't. You focus on doing it the right way as many times as possible to make it to where your body can do it without thinking. But those are like different ways you can use items or not do drills, but create awareness and understanding for an athlete. Because whether you're a coach on deck or a coach online, understanding what your body is doing in water is very, 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 very hard for people. It is very difficult to kind of feel things out. And very few people have the gift. They can just kind of do it. And if have that kind of like second nature feel, especially triathletes, because they haven't grown up swimming year round, so they don't know what that feel is like. So they struggle to get the feel. They struggle to know what should be engaged, right? Their shoulder is hurting or their neck is hurting. All these things are like, it's not, it shouldn't be that way. There are things we can do in ways to, fixing things in real time, again, by empowering and providing opportunities to feel certain things through that type of engagement with your lats, and then pushing back. And that's how it should feel here. And that's how your arms should feel here. Right. And you can see that, you can watch that, go slower, put a pull between your legs, again, slow yourself down to see yourself do it right. And then you'll see how much faster you get, easier, and then stop, reset, do it over again. So there's a lot of ways, again, from the front to the back, to set an athlete up for success. But it is, you always start, and we kind of go through our spiel, and when I work with an athlete one-on-one, like I say, we're going to start at the front of the stroke, because honestly, it's the easiest one, I think, and the most important, because it's the one you can see, right? I can keep my head up a little bit higher, even though I don't recommend it, but I can keep my head up and I can watch to see if my hands cross over my midline, right? I can put a dot, on the back of my elbow and see if I'm popping my elbow up early enough to get a early vertical form. I can see those things, right? I can see them. I don't have to just feel them. I can see them, right? So it's a huge benefit to be able to see them. And that's why, like, pushing your hand back and keeping your hand pointed towards your palm, pointed towards the back of the pool is the hardest one, because people can't see it, right? They can't see themselves do it. You have to feel it. But then once they get it, it's a giant improvement, because it not only finishes a stroke, it bridges the gap between the time for you and your next stroke. So yeah, again, that's why I always go at the front and encourage people to work their way through. And because then by that time, if you have a good entry, if you have a good beginning, if you have a good catch, right, then you're already 80% of the way, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you have feel for the water. Now I've increased your ability to feel what it's like to finish your stroke the way you're supposed to finish it while entering on the other side. And again, that takes practice. But it's just another vote for awareness and doing things in real time, not through, drills and drills and drills and drills and drills that have no real application to real world swimming, right? It's you have to do it in real time to be able to fix it in real time. And that's a hard thing to get people to wrap their brain around.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's a really good thing. I mean, the catch and the feel are, synonymous almost. So it's like, I'm always fascinated by the idea and it's weird that you used the bike analogy a lot there. Cause I always kind of compare the pedal stroke to the swim stroke in a lot of ways. Sometimes it's easier for me to picture that way. Cause the power section is up front. And you're, on the pedal and you're pushing down, that's where, a lot of your force comes from. And if you it's almost like connecting the whole thing is similar to a swim to me, because once you get, you have the power up front and you have a good, push on the pedal and you have a good catch and you have a good, pull from the beginning, it's kind of in the same place as a pedal stroke in a weird way. And then it's sort of about, like you said, connecting that pull up on your pedal and connecting the whole thing. But if you're strong up front on a bike, you're going to be going faster and in general. And then if you can connect the whole piece on both sides, that's really where it kind of comes together, because it's one of those things I was thinking, because I am so strong on my right. I do think that I pull probably 2/3 of my effort is on the right side still. And I'm always thinking about when I come back and I'm finishing my catch and my pull and then pushing in the back, that's when I'm really thinking about my left side and really trying to get out far and out wide, because I think I lose so much. So like my mind is just connected to the push on the right and the reach on the left. And I really try to, it's a mobility issue, a little bit of a strength issue on the left side, but I'm always thinking that way. And I think that's when I swim my best, because not only that, it balances things out better because I'm taking more force. I'm not overloading one side all the time. Plus, there's probably injury precautions there and all kinds of other things. But I think the same goes with the bike too. You have to, it's best to have balance in all these sports, both sides.
Yeah, and you can't really understand balance or imbalance if you're not paying attention, right? If the same thing goes with things like running. It's like, if you've got to recognize, like I had this conversation 10 minutes before we hopped on our podcast. I was having a call with an athlete, and one of the things I told him is like, one of the reasons we do, and the same thing goes with swimming, like 25 fitness. I said one of the main reasons we do so many 15-second, 20-second, 30-second, less than a minute, intervals that are hard, right? 95. Even if you're a person who's running 11 and a half, 12 and a half, 14 and a half, 15, whatever it is, miles, it's not so much about this physiological response that, the perfect amount of time and seconds in zone 3 and zone 4 to produce the perfect lactate measurement. It's so you can improve your fucking coordination of running, to run fast and to run strong and to run coordinated. You can't do that running as slow as possible. You can't do it. So it's better to run fast, establish that muscle, that fast twitch recruitment, understand what it's like, show your body what it's like to run with good form, to run fast, to run quick, teaching your body that, right? Coordination. We are athletes. We're not triathloners. We're athletes that do triathlon, right? That swim, bike, and run. Teach yourself to be an athlete. And so in order to do that, you have to do things that are athletic. Same thing goes with swimming. 25s, 50s, 75s, 100s, max. Those aren't just for a physiological response. Those are to teach you coordination over short periods of time with adequate rest, right? So your mind doesn't drift, so your form doesn't go to crap. So you're focused on it. Because the more you do it over and over and over and over and over and over again, the more it's apt to sink in and do it better. and hold it the next time. Like we've incorporated a ton of running drills this year and stuff like that. And it's paid huge dividends for our athlete. And just this last weekend, we had an athlete, PR their 10K from 8 years ago. He's an older athlete. And then we had a guy beat his PR from back when he was 24 in half marathon. Just better running economy, focusing on things, and take it. For example, so again, cycling, take it away because you can't F it up really. You just can't. It's a fixed platform. You pedal in 360 degrees. Swimming and running, when you're doing things short, think about accumulating. Everybody's so focused on accumulating a specific amount of minutes in a specific zone. Think about how many minutes you can accumulate of doing something right. Period. Just doing it right. And that creates better economy, better efficiency. That alone makes you faster. Period. Makes you faster. Easier. Less injury prone. Like all those things. So many people are so focused on, lactate testing and, the newest form of this and the super shoes and this. I'm like, we didn't even know how to run. Well, yeah. It's just a fact.
I know.
It's a fact. I know it's harsh, but it's 100% true. We are a society where we are totally obsessed with focusing on the 1% when we haven't even come close to nailing the other 99. Because it's honestly, for a lot of athletes, it takes less work for them to pretend and focus like they only need that 1% when they can't even do it right. And ask any high-level coach, what's the best way to get faster? Become more efficient. Swim better and easier, right? Become efficient in cycling. Have better run form. That's the differentiator. So think about accumulating time of doing things right. Doing it right, right? So you can do it over 20 seconds, like the Moneghetti runs. It's one of our big time favorites of athletes. You run hard, it goes by quick, but it also allows you 15, 30, 45, 60 seconds, 90 seconds, bridge back down of times to run right and to run well and to run strong, right? Or I can tell you to run, 3 by 3 minutes at threshold, and you might start to fatigue. Well, if you're fatigued, then your form goes bad. If your form goes bad, you might get in a bounce. If you're getting a bounce, it might be tight. Next thing you know, the next day you wake up with a niggle in your hip and you can't do anything today. Well, was it worth it? No. Well, we could have spread it out and done it a different way, got just as much, if not more, time at the right coordination, the right velocity, the right speed, and the right form for you to do it well. And guess what? You feel great. Same thing goes with swimming, is doing it right? You go too long, your form fades, you decide not to go pool buoy, I can tough it out, and then you're got a shoulder problem. There's so many things we can do if we break it down the right way to do it right. Because it's easier to do it right than it is to force it to do it wrong. That's what gets you slower and that's what gets you hurt. And that's why I'm going off in swimming, but it's fine. That's why I'm so anti these insanely long runs you see people doing. Why I genuinely believe it's not only counterproductive for your development as an athlete, but it's bad for your health, overall body health, to run with such terrible form for such a long period of time on tired legs with a tired body. You're not learning to do anything better. You're just destroying your ligaments and tendons and bone structure by leaning so far to the right. But you got to get in that 3-hour run before Ironman Chattanooga this year. Like nothing got better. In fact, you probably got so tired that you got worse because you spent more time in a worse position than a better position. So it's just a lot of things to think about, but it goes back to coordination in swimming and correct form. It's easier to go easy because it feels easy, right? But it's taking the time to learn how to do it right and to learn how to feel it and to feel how those things go. And again, it's a lot harder to do in swimming. And I get that. But that's why I'm so anal about it with our athletes, is just to figure out a way to do it right, to be coordinated, again, to be an athlete, not just a person that goes through the motions, right? Athletes that do this sport get injured less, not because they're more durable, because they're more coordinated. But you can teach yourself to be more coordinated in these different things. It just takes a little bit extra work.
Yeah. And really, if you're swimming right, you're building up your core and your lats and everything like that. You're just giving yourself a better foundation to do the other stuff. I think that 100%. Being lazy in the pool and just kind of getting that, not really engaging the whole core and the body, like you said, man, it's just like it's not really doing a whole lot for you. You got to engage.
Let me say this and we'll be done.
All right.
We talked about it a million times when it comes to the energy deficit, and from the moment you stick your toe in the water and start your swim at any race, no matter the distance, it's about energy expenditure, right? It's a chain, the link in the chain. The longer you can put off, spending energy or getting hot, the better your race will be. Think about swimming with bad form, right? And athletes that have chronic imbalances and always have some kind of niggle popping up and this popping up and this popping up. If you're out there swimming and you're just going through the motions and you're imbalanced and you're uncoordinated, then you're creating imbalances. Just because you're swimming doesn't mean there isn't a chronic load. Doesn't mean there's not a chronic load. So you go out and you swim a lazy ass 3,000 without paying attention, hammer it out. You're using paddles the size of pizza boxes, but you really got to get it done. Your traps are sore, your neck is tight, your shoulders are your shoulders are hurting, one side of your body worked harder than the other, and then you go out for a run. You don't think that has an effect? Has a huge effect on your balance. Huge effect on your balance. Best example I can give you is how many athletes struggle with their neck in position on the bike when they race because of how much they had to sight in an open water swim. That's just once, right? Think about how many times you do the course a week. Again, it all goes back to balance and coordination and just doing things right, not obsessing about the newest $1,200 wetsuit, right? Or the newest software update on Zwift. It's like, just do the stuff right that matters, and the rest of the stuff, won't just not matter. You won't need it because you'll be faster.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say mission accomplished. I would say you got me perked up today.
Well
done.
We all like it, man. We all love talking about swimming, and
not everybody, and I usually get a little bit, get them hard on people during the swim. But you know what? You need it because most people are too soft these days. So that should have been good for you. A little bit of a jolt. Now that it's racing season, now there's time to get outside, get out of the pool, go open water swim once a week, get the feel for it, get the coordination for it. Put that hard work to work in a real world environment. Get out there open water and do that. If you're struggling with your swim, don't know where to go, don't know where you've been, don't know how to get there, we still got some spots open at June Camp where we'll do 2 pool sessions open water swim. So come be a part of that and get some awesome cycling and running in. Also, we have I think 2 spots left for our swim camp next March in Texas. Both of those are on our website, c26triathlon.com. Click on the camps and scroll through those. All the information you need is there. That's about it. That's all I got for today.
that's it, huh?
That's it. Yeah, that's it. That's it. I hope that was your cup of coffee.
All right. Well, put that to work, people.
Put that to work. As always, we love you. We appreciate you. Go to our website, C26 Triathlon, is our one-stop shop for all things coaching, camps, and community. If you need anything from Mike the Man, he is at CrushingIron@gmail.com. If you need anything from me, C26Coach@gmail.com.
All right, buddy. Well, have a great day, and I'll see you in the pool.
All right, man. See you, dude.